The Amber Road has long been described as a trade route. But that explanation doesn't hold up, because when you follow where it actually led, it doesn't lead to markets. It leads to tombs. Across the ancient world, fragments of amber appear in places they shouldn't be, from the Baltic forests to the gates of Egypt. And new analysis suggests this wasn't random. It may have been part of something far more structured, not just trade, but a network, built around a single idea that light could be captured, carried, and used beyond death. This is the story of how our ancestors may have engineered a bridge between life and death, using the light of a single sun to navigate the dark halls of the Duat, the Egyptian underworld. And by the end of this journey, you'll see evidence that's difficult to explain, one that may challenge everything we think we know about the ancient world.
For centuries, history books dismissed the Amber Road as a simple trade route, a dusty path for merchants hauling fossilized resin from the Baltic to the Mediterranean. But the silent archives of the Earth may tell a far more unsettling story. New satellite imaging from 2026 appears to peel back the layers of time, revealing something more complex, a network of transit that doesn't fully align with the logic of simple trade. This may not have been merely a path for goods. It may have functioned as something more, a kind of spiritual highway. Look closely at the ley lines connecting the northern forests to the scorched sands of the south, and a pattern begins to emerge, one that hints at a deliberate geometric precision. Perhaps our ancestors were not simply wandering nomads, but something more intentional, shaping connections between the sun-drenched Baltic shores and the shifting shadows of the desert. The landscape itself seems to carry traces of an ancient, widespread focus on a single material, one that may have been seen as holding the very essence of light.
To the ancients, Baltic amber was not merely a rock or a decorative trinket. It was electrum, the tears of the sun. In the dim, freezing winters of the north, the discovery of this glowing, golden resin may have felt like a direct intervention from the heavens. They believed that when the sun dipped below the horizon, it didn't simply vanish. It bled light into the earth, where it was captured, refined, and fossilized by the forest floor. This was substance as divinity, or at least that's how it appears in their mythology. To hold a piece of raw Baltic amber was to hold what they may have seen as a fragment of the sun itself, frozen in a state of suspended animation. It was light, solidified, a tangible promise that warmth would return. This belief wasn't just folklore. It may have formed the foundation of an entire theology built around the capture of light, an idea powerful enough to drive the inhabitants of the north to share their liquid sun with the rest of the world.
This brings us to the core mystery. Why travel thousands of miles through hostile terrain to deliver resin to the desert? One possible answer is that amber may have been seen as something far more essential, a kind of hardware within the architecture of the afterlife. We often think of ancient technology as stone tools or bronze weapons, but there may have been another layer we've overlooked, a form of soft tech, something closer to metaphysical circuitry. This fossilized resin does possess unique observable properties. It can hold a static charge and preserve organic life in remarkable detail. For desert civilizations, deeply focused on the idea of immortality, amber may have taken on a very different role. Not just an offering, but something closer to a vessel, or even a conductor. By integrating amber into their rites,
It's possible they believed they were channeling or downloading a form of northern solar energy into the dry, sealed tombs of the south. In that sense, the Amber Road may have functioned as something far more complex, perhaps even a kind of intercontinental network intended to support the soul's journey into the light.
For decades, mainstream archaeology treated the Amber Road as a secondary trade curiosity, lacking the hard, scientific proof to support a deeper connection. But the silence of the tombs may not be as complete as once thought. Modern mass spectrometry has begun to reveal something more intriguing. Recent analysis of funerary artifacts from the New Kingdom has identified trace residues of succinic acid, a chemical marker strongly associated with Baltic amber, embedded within the inner chambers of royal Egyptian tombs. This is difficult to dismiss as a simple coincidence of trade. It suggests that during the height of pharaonic power, Baltic resin was not only reaching Egypt, but may have been intentionally sought after and used within the most protected spaces of the state. This chemical link hints at a physical connection between the northern tiers of the sun and the inner sanctum of the Nile, a bridge between two distant worlds, separated by thousands of miles of wilderness.
When we place Egyptian iconography side by side with northern Baltic solar motifs, the parallels become difficult to ignore. Consider the Eye of Ra, the all-seeing protective solar force believed to guard the pharaoh in the afterlife. Now look at the ancient solar talismans unearthed in Baltic bogs, crafted from thick, circular amber. In both cultures, these objects appear to have been viewed as more than simple decoration, something closer to protective vessels. The Egyptians believed the Eye of Ra could strike down darkness. Baltic tribes may have seen their amber discs as a way to illuminate the path of the soul through the void. In both cases, it seems their solar beliefs became closely tied to a physical object. The amber acts almost like a mirror, and the Eye of Ra a reflection. Together, this points toward a shared symbolic language, one that may have transcended borders, expressed through the same golden material.
One of the more intriguing proposed uses of amber in Egypt relates to the process of mummification. We know the Egyptians were deeply focused on preservation, but it may not have been only about the body. It may also have been connected to what they understood as the life force. To the priesthood, the body may have been seen as something that needed to retain energy through the transition to the underworld. Baltic amber, with its well-known ability to preserve organic material, insects, leaves, even ancient bark, may have been viewed as uniquely suited for this role. In some cases, amber appears to have been incorporated into burial rites, and possibly even placed within wrappings or amulets. It's possible that priests saw the resin as a way to stabilize or hold something beyond the physical, not just preserving the body, but helping maintain continuity of the self. In that sense, amber may have been understood as a kind of anchor, a material that helped ensure the journey through the dark halls of the duat could be endured without losing what made a person whole.
The bustling city-states of Mesopotamia, where the rule of law was written in stone and clay, amber appears to have played a role that was both administrative and symbolic. Excavations of royal archives have uncovered amber cylinders, used not merely as beads, but as high-status personal seals. These were pressed into wet clay to authenticate decrees, but their meaning may have extended beyond commerce. In a culture deeply focused on fate and the so-called tablets of destiny, such objects may have been seen as carrying more than authority, perhaps even representing a link between the individual and the unseen world. In some burial contexts, seals were placed with the deceased, suggesting they held significance beyond life.
It's possible these amber objects were understood as a form of identity, something that accompanied a person beyond death, reinforcing who they were. In that sense, the resin may have functioned as more than a signet. It may have been seen as a kind of key, not in a literal sense, but as a symbol of access, a way to carry status, identity, and recognition into whatever came next.
The connection between the Baltic and Mesopotamia may not be only material. It may also be found in the rhythm of their voices. When we look at the dinas, the ancient rhythmic folk songs of the Baltic people, we begin to notice a structural similarity to the ritual incantations found in Sumerian myths, such as the descent of Inanna into the underworld. Both traditions rely on repetitive patterns and cadence, often associated with trance-like states, and frequently centered around themes of light entering darkness and eventual return. Whether this is coincidence or something more is difficult to say, but the parallel is striking. It's possible that these rhythmic forms were used to regulate breath and focus attention, a way of aligning the individual with something larger than themselves. Whether it was a Baltic singer by a coastal fire or a Sumerian priest within a ziggurat, these chants may have served a similar purpose, preparing the mind for transition and giving structure to experiences that were otherwise impossible to explain.
One of the more radical theories suggests that these rhythmic chants may have been connected to the physical properties of the amber placed alongside the deceased. Amber is known to exhibit certain reactive qualities. Under pressure or friction, it can generate a small electrical charge. While this is a well-documented property, how it may have been understood or interpreted in the ancient world remains unclear. It's possible that the combination of sound, rhythm, and material held symbolic or experiential significance. During burial rituals, the repetition of chants, combined with the presence of amber, may have been perceived as activating or amplifying something beyond the physical. In this context, any subtle reaction, whether physical or perceived, could have been interpreted as a sign, a form of guidance within the uncertainty of death. Rather than a literal mechanism, these practices may have served as a way to create meaning and direction, a sense that the journey through the unknown was not entirely without structure.
If we view the ancient world as a kind of living system, the movement of amber across it begins to resemble something more than trade, almost like a network connecting distant regions. Some scholars have explored the idea that amber may have held symbolic or functional significance beyond its material value. In certain interpretations, it has even been described as a kind of cosmic battery, not in a literal sense, but as a way of understanding how energy, meaning, and belief were stored and transferred. Many ancient traditions treated the underworld not simply as an abstract void, but as a structured realm, one that mirrored aspects of the world of the living. To navigate it, people may have relied on symbolic anchors, physical objects or locations that provided a sense of orientation. In that context, the placement of amber in temples, along key routes and within tombs, may not have been random. Instead, it could reflect an attempt to create connections, linking places, rituals, and beliefs into a larger system. Rather than a literal power grid, this may have been a way of mapping the invisible onto the visible, creating a framework in which the living and the dead remained connected through shared symbols, materials, and meaning.
One of the most enduring images in ancient solar traditions is the solar boat, the vessel that carries light through darkness. In the north, this appears in rock carvings across the Baltic and Scandinavia, where ships are often shown bearing sun disks. In the south,
A similar idea emerges in the Egyptian bark of millions of years, said to carry the sun god Ra through the treacherous hours of the night. Both cultures seem to return to the idea of a vehicle, something that could carry light through the unknown. But this raises a question. Why is amber so often associated with this journey? One possibility is how it was perceived. Amber was often seen as solidified light, something that held the essence of the sun in physical form. If the journey through darkness required guidance, or even continuity of light, then materials like amber may have taken on a deeper meaning. Whether as symbol or substance, it could have represented something that does not fade, a steady presence in the face of the unknown. In both the northern and southern traditions, these glowing elements appear again and again, not just as decoration, but as something central to the idea of passage itself.
The transition from life to death may have been understood by ancient cultures as one of the most unstable moments in human experience, a point where the familiar structure of reality seemed to dissolve. Many traditions reflect a concern that the soul could become unmoored, entering a realm where time, space, and identity were no longer certain. In that context, materials like amber may have offered a sense of stability, something ancient, unchanging, and capable of preserving the past in remarkable detail. Rather than a solution in a literal sense, it may have served as a symbolic fixed point, something the living could place alongside the dead to represent continuity. Objects such as amber amulets, whether held or placed within tombs, may have been intended to provide a sense of grounding, a connection to something stable in the face of an unknown transition. In this way, amber could be understood as a kind of anchor, not physically, but conceptually, offering the idea that even in the most uncertain passage, something remains constant.
When we step back and look at the totality of the evidence, from chemical traces in Egyptian tombs to the geometry of Mesopotamian structures and the solar traditions of the Baltic forests, it becomes harder to see these as isolated developments. Instead, a broader pattern begins to emerge, one that hints at a deeper level of connection across distant cultures. Some have described this as a kind of golden thread, a recurring idea that appears in different forms across the ancient world, linking material, belief, and landscape. In this view, the journey of the soul is often represented as movement, from light into darkness and towards something beyond. Whether this reflects a shared origin, parallel thinking, or something else entirely, remains an open question. What is clear is that these cultures were not only building civilizations, they were also creating systems of meaning, attempting to understand and navigate experiences that lie beyond ordinary life. And in many of these systems, the same elements appear again and again: the light of the sun, the materials of the earth, and the enduring question of what comes next. Why has this possible connection remained largely absent from traditional historical narratives? Part of the answer may lie in how knowledge is interpreted and preserved. As dominant cultures and institutions shaped the historical record, certain perspectives were prioritized, while others were overlooked or dismissed as symbolic, mythological, or simply irrelevant. Ideas connected to earth-based practices, resonance, or the deeper meaning of materials were often categorized as superstition rather than explored in detail. At the same time, modern history has tended to favor linear, material explanations, frameworks that don't always account for symbolic or experiential systems of thought. But that perspective is beginning to shift,
Advances in archaeological technology, from spectrometry to ground imaging and acoustic analysis, are opening new ways of examining the past. Connections that once seemed unlikely are being reconsidered, and patterns that were previously ignored are starting to draw attention again. This doesn't necessarily mean that ancient knowledge was more advanced in a technical sense, but it may suggest that it was more integrated, blending material observation with symbolic understanding in ways we are only beginning to revisit.
We can end with a shift in perspective. Perhaps our ancestors did not always see the world as a collection of isolated cultures, but as something more connected, a system where nature, material, and belief were closely intertwined. Across different traditions, we find recurring ideas: the light of the sun, the materials of the earth, and the journey of the human soul, often treated not as separate concepts, but as parts of a larger whole. Whether or not this reflects a shared understanding, it suggests that people were searching for ways to make sense of existence in a connected, meaningful way. The Amber Road, in that sense, may have been more than a trade route. It may have represented a link, not only between regions, but between ways of thinking. As we stand in the 21st century, equipped with new tools and perspectives, we are beginning to re-examine the past with fresh eyes. And perhaps what we are rediscovering is not a lost system, but a different way of seeing. One where connection matters more than separation, and where even the smallest fragment can carry the memory of something much larger.